In this video, we are going to discuss the practical steps of the literature review that need to be followed by the investigator and other continuation of the previous video. The main steps for literature review search using different search engine is the first step that you determine the scope or the range of the research, and then to identify the resources that you need to search, which resources you are interested to cover or to search so that you can find the relevant literature that you are looking for, and then to select the key search terms that you are going to use so that you can adequately cover most of the literature you are interested to search. And then you compile the search strategy and to run the search so that you can easily access the literature you are interested to find. And then it's important to find the full text rather than to use the abstracts. And it's important for the investigator or to go over the full text so that he or she could really understand how the study was conducted, which design was used, and what are the lessons learned, and what are the important issues that have been included or discussed in the article. But the abstract usually is inadequate to reflect the whole picture of the article. And then to manage the search information and to find out which is valuable, which information are of importance for you, which valuable, which of these literature is relevant to your topic. Then we can talk about the first step, that to define what are you trying to search for. And this is very important and seems something that is clear, but most of the candidates do not adequately consider it as the initial step of the search, that you have to be very specific about what are you searching for, what are you trying to find, which literature are you interested to find, which literature are relevant to your research topic. We have to remember that we are searching a massive body of published literature. For example, the PubMed comprises more than 37 million citations for biomedical literature from Medline, life science journals, and online books. It means that the literature is too massive, and then you have to be very specific about what you are trying to find and to search. Thus, it's necessarily important to be specific about the search and what are you trying to find with such massive literature as we have mentioned. Then the most important step is that you formulate the important questions. The best way to define the research topic is to formulate questions that cover properly the research topic. And this step is to direct the formulated question toward the type of the information. After you formulated the questions, then you try to identify or to determine which type of information you like to find in order to answer these questions. For example, if I want to find the relationship between typhoid fever outbreaks and hygienic practices in Sudan, then the question I need to answer is, can typhoid fever outbreaks in Sudan be related to hygienic practices, for example? And then you identify the building blocks of the question. Most searching engines do not effectively search or adequately search if you just include your question. If you put the question for the search engine, usually the search is inadequate. So it is necessary to break down your question or questions into concepts, and these concepts will form the building blocks of your search, and this will facilitate the whole research process. And then you have to look for your question to identify which subject area uh, which building blocks for your search, and each item must address in order to answer your question. It's important to notice that most relevant subject areas or building blocks are usually should not be more than three, or otherwise the search will be too complicated. If you formulate subject area three or four or five, more than three, four or five or six, then the search will be too complicated and the search engine cannot perform effectively to find relevant papers or articles. For example, we can go to our previous example. Can typhoid fever outbreaks should not be related to hygienic practices? Then the concepts or the subject areas or the building blocks will be typhoid fever, hygienic practices, and Sudan. And then the next step is to identify the type of relevant information you need in order to facilitate the search process. Example, can typhoid fever outbreaks in Sudan be related to hygienic practices? Maybe I can identify that the type of information required for the research is journal articles and research reports. Then now we have completed step one. We are clear about what to search and what we want to find. Then the next step is to decide where to go to find that information, where to go to search for the information after you have determined exactly the building blocks or the subject areas you are interested to search for. And we'll definitely it's important to look for two type of search resources. For example, a search engine and a bibliography database, and these are very important to remember. The search engines, for example, Google has been most widely used as search engine for several years. You have to notice that it's excellent in finding gray literature. Other types of literature like primary and secondary literature and systematic review and academic publications cannot be found. And as we know, gray literature is the material that is not formally published in a book or journal, such as non-governmental organization reports, governmental reports, official documents, policy documents, statistics, images, illustration, etc. So I should not use Google to search for high quality academic research. Then this is because Google does not search every website in the world, and there are significant section of the internet that is invisible for the Google machine to search for. And these contents of academic importance are usually included in bibliography databases. So we have to go and search for important bibliography databases that will provide us with the literature of high academic quality. When Google does a search, it does not search the live internet. It's not up to date, and usually it goes back up to 6 months of data. That if you use it only, then you are going to miss important literature in the search. And a bibliography database, if you are looking for academic information, particularly journal articles, then you should use a bibliography database. Bibliography databases contain details of millions of journal articles published in thousands of journal titles. There is not one database which cover all journals published on all subjects. So which database you search for will depend on the subject you are trying to find information about. If you are trying to find something about pharmacological and therapeutic practices, then you have to go for database that is specialized in pharmacology and therapeutics. For example, in clinical trials, you have to search for bibliography database that can be of much help in your search. Then we have to come to select the search term. We need to identify the key terms that describe each of the building blocks or your concepts. It's important to remember that the search engine cannot think like human subjects and cannot differentiate fine differences between words, for example, spelling yeah, of a certain word. They cannot differentiate between these, cannot appreciate fine differences between words or expressions as regard this, for example, spelling of the mistakes. So we have to be careful to be very specific about what we are trying to search. If I type in typhoid fever, the database or the search engine will not know also that I want to find papers or articles that discuss enteric fever, enterica, or paratyphoid fever. So we have to think of all the different key terms. Each concept could be described and include these in your search. Otherwise, we'll be missing important papers because we have not specified exactly the key terms. For example, if we talk about the building blocks or the concepts of typhoid fever, hygienic practice in Sudan, we need to think of the substitute or synonymous on alternative words, which the author could have used to describe the two concepts. For example, enteric fever, we have to add enterica, we have to add paratyphoid fever, hygienic practices, sterile, sanitary, germ-free. All these could be used by different authors when publishing their articles. So we need to include all the synonymous we can think of in our search in order not to miss any important literature. The use of the thesaurus can help in finding the synonymous of keywords. Then we have to compile and run the research. Now we have a list of the substitute or synonymous for each concept. We can go and put these in the search engine together. There are two search techniques or approaches that can be used to help, namely truncation and Boolean operators. For any database, it's important to revise about the database. That title is important in order to understand the rules and regulations and principles for using the search engine. So for any database, we have to go in the menu and to look for about this database, which will give us explanations and opinions about the rules, about the regulation, about how to access the information, and so on and so forth. The truncation, as well as using different words, we use different forms of words. The databases cannot differentiate between typhoid and paratyphoid, and that you are interested in article including both typhoid and paratyphoid. So, for example, most databases allow you to specify the beginning or root of the word and then leave it up to the database to add all the alternative endings of that word. And the most common way to do this is to add the asterisk to the end of the word root. To find different endings to the word trauma, for example, add an asterisk to the end of the root of the word trauma. This will give you all the words with different endings, whether traumatized, whether traumatic, whether traumatizing, etc. The Boolean operators, we use Boolean operators to combine our search term together correctly. We have to combine the key term or the search term correctly. Or is used when you want to find items containing any of your terms. It is typically used to join synonyms for the same concept. For example, typhoid or paratyphoid or enteric fever. It means that you compile these three. And is used instead when you want to find items containing all of your terms. It is typically used to join different concepts together. For example, we can talk about typhoid and hygienic practices. You can use brackets or parentheses to make sure the system does your search correctly. Put all of your summas for your first subject in one set of brackets or parentheses, and all of your summas for the second subject in another set of brackets, and link them together with, and as we can see in this example, typhoid. You start with the brackets, typhoid or enteric fever, then you close the brackets and you join the search with hygienic practice or sterile or sanitary, for example, as you mentioned in the previous example. Thank you very much.